Welcome to Live from Mars, your weekly pop music podcast where we go through the latest and greatest new music releases, what's happening in the pop music world. My name is Alex. You may know me as Mars from TikTok, Instagram, this podcast, hopefully. Apologies if I sound a little muffled. I've been battling this really annoying cold for the last week plus. It's why there was no new episode last week. I just could not function. I'm pretty much better, but I still have this lingering congestion, so excuse the Miss Piggy voice. I'm not letting the cold stop me from sitting down and doing another episode of the podcast, so we are here today. We're talking new music releases from Joe Jonas, Julia Michaels, Renee Rapp. I went to Beyoncé's Cowboy Carter tour show. We're going to go into a ton of detail on what I thought of the performance. But before I get into everything, if you are not already following and subscribed to the podcast on your favorite podcast provider, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, if you're not already following, please do so. It means the absolute world to me. And if you're feeling extra generous, throw Live from Mars a 5-star rating on whatever platform you're listening on. That is how we get the podcast to grow. That is how we get really cool special guests to come on. I have one coming very, very soon that you're going to be very excited about. So stay tuned for more there. I'll reveal more next week. But without any further ado, let's get into this week's New Music Friday releases. Let's kick things off with the return of Renee Rapp. Renee's new single, Leave Me Alone, dropped on Wednesday. It is the lead single off of her upcoming album called Bite Me that is dropping on August 1st. This is Renee's first real single back since the Mean Girls work that she did, and before that, her 2023 album Snow Angel. I will admit I was late on the Renee train. My friends were obsessed with her, and I just kind of brushed it off because I didn't really need another artist to get into and obsess over, and I was completely wrong. This girl has pipes. She truly has one of the best voices I've heard in a very, very long time, and the fact that she's able to take her Broadway-trained vocals and bring it to the pop world is really interesting to me. Here's a quick snippet of Leave Me Alone, and then we'll talk about the song. So yes, that is Leave Me Alone. It is incredibly angsty, and if you are familiar with Renee's back catalog, this is probably a little bit of a sonic departure for you. It is for me. But this song to me actually feels like we're finally getting a matchup of Renee the person with Renee the musician. She's always kind of had this wild card, bold, badass energy, especially as she's broken into the mainstream. She kind of has this I don't give a fuck attitude, and she's loud and proud about her sexuality. She is out and about and just is unapologetically herself. And this song really reflects that. Listen to an interview, I think it was with Zane Lowe, who I intensely admire. He is someone who is an incredible music journalist. She was talking with him about how it was a little weird for her to be making music that wasn't so deeply rooted in this intensely personal songwriting, that was a big power ballad that really showed off her vocal chops, and instead this song is kind of the opposite of that. And her friends, the producers, the co-writers she was with, I don't remember who said it to her, but was like, you need to listen to more pop music because it doesn't need to be that. And that is very clearly the direction that they went with Leave Me Alone. Now, Leave Me Alone, to me, when I first heard it, it's bold. It is bombastic. It reminded me a lot of Olivia Rodrigo's Gut work, where it played into this Y2K nostalgia of this alt-pop, alt-rock sound. I said in my TikTok reaction to seeing the music video for the first time that hearing Leave Me Alone made me think of the band Pink Slip from the Freaky Friday movie with Lindsay Lohan. If anyone knows, you're a real one. I feel like Renee could easily be a member of Pink Slip, could easily be fronting the band with Lindsay with this song. Now, will it be a huge radio success? Will it do incredibly well on streaming? I'm not so certain. I don't really believe so. I feel like it's a little, maybe too edgy for some people, but it does make me excited to hear Renee's full album. She is somebody who I'll always tune into. I want to hear her voice. She just has this rawness and angst within her that to me is super captivating. So that is Renee Rapp's Leave Me Alone. Next, let's talk Joe Jonas. Joe Jonas finally released his new album, Music for People Who Believe in Love, on Friday. The lead single for this project was called Work It Out. It dropped last July when the album was originally supposed to come out in October. Joe says he found some more inspiration, went back into the studio, and pushed the album to now, and the lead-up singles have been really strong. Work It Out wasn't necessarily my favorite, but What This Could Be dropped in October. That was one of my favorite songs of 2024. It plays into this like dream pop vision where I've talked about it on the podcast, I've talked about it on TikTok before, but this song is just very ethereal and it really like hit me in the feels, and the vocal performance, especially at the tail end, is so good. And then Joe released the new single Heart by Heart with a corresponding music video a few weeks back. I talked about that as well. Feels a little Bruce Springsteen, feels like he's paying homage to those Jersey roots. Definitely recommend checking that one out, but the album itself continues to build upon those 3 songs. It plays into a few different genres, it plays into a few different directions, which I'm excited to see because Joe has kind of been a multitasking man throughout his entire career between his work with Jonas Brothers, his band DNCE, which is behind the hit Cake by the Ocean, then you have his solo work, and this is his first solo album in 14 years. He's lived a lot of life. He has 2 kids, he's gone through an incredibly public marriage and divorce, so I was excited to see what he had to say for himself. The album itself, nothing revolutionary, it's not mind-blowing pop music whatsoever, but Joe has one of those tones that it always will draw me in. I do think the strongest songs after listening to the album once are Heart by Heart and What This Could Be, so I'm glad that those got proper treatments. There's a few different collaborations on the record, one of them is the opening, which kind of feels like a Disney instrumental suite, and then it weirdly and intensely transitions into this, I don't even know what exactly to call it, like electric rock song called Parachute. It was not a transition I saw coming, but it was definitely an electrifying way to kick off the album. 3 song recommendations for you are Honey Blonde, which you can probably figure out who it's about, or someone that we're not aware of. Very, very pretty, and then Only Love is another one that he had been teasing on TikTok for a while. The full version is strong. And then I really liked the last song called Constellation. The lyrics, maybe a little bit hit or miss here and there, but vocally, very strong. So Joe Jonas' new album, Music for People Who Believe in Love, definitely worth checking out. Here's a quick snippet of Heart by Heart in case you haven't heard it yet. But that is Joe Jonas' Music for People Who Believe in Love. I am curious to know if you listen to it. Let me know what you think. I already know when I listen to this back to edit, I'm going to be like, oh my god, you sound so congested. Why are you putting this out? And just bear with me, please. I promise I don't feel as bad as I sound. And then the last entry in this week's New Music Friday highlights is Julia Michaels, who is back with a new EP. It is called Second Self. In case you're not familiar with Julia Michaels is one of the best songwriters we have out right now. She is also an artist on her own. She has written so many hit songs, I can't even begin to list them all, but she really grew to popularity with her work on Justin Bieber's album Purpose and Selena Gomez's album Revival. She's worked with pretty much every big pop star in the business. And this is her first big music release, and I want to say like 4 years. Her album, Not in Chronological Order, came out in 2021. I was a big fan of that project, so I was excited to check out Second Self. Now, Second Self is an EP. I think it's 6 or 7 songs. We had a few of them before, including the song Scissors with Maren Morris. And the thing that I always return to with Julia Michaels is her caliber and her unique style of songwriting. She kind of became known for this way of songwriting where you squeeze as many syllables into one line as you possibly can, where it feels very overstuffed and you're using random words as lyrics that would never normally make sense in a pop song, but with Julia's style of songwriting, they do. Very clever puns, very clever play on words. Scissors is a great example of that, cutting ties, scissors, other meanings as well. So that one I definitely enjoyed, and then the rest of the EP was good. A few of the songs that I really enjoyed were Fool, which actually stands for Falling Out of Love. There's a song called GFY, which stands for Go F Yourself, and it is probably the most beautiful song ever written about telling someone to go F themselves. Songwriting across the entire project is incredibly vulnerable. It's scathing at times also. The highlight for me is the closing song Time, definitely worth checking it out. Here's a quick snippet of it before we wrap up.
It took you 15 minutes, then you never came back. That's one hell of a really long break time.
Those are our 3 New Music Friday highlights for the week: Renee Rapp, Joe Jonas, and Julia Michaels. Definitely let me know if there's any other new projects that dropped on Friday that you want me to check out. Drop a comment, let me know. And let's get into the Beyoncé concert because it was something else. So I had the pleasure of attending Beyoncé's Cowboy Carter show last night. It is the second act in this 3-project trilogy that Beyoncé originally teased a few years back. Act 1 was Renaissance and then had the Renaissance tour, which I saw. Act 2 is Cowboy Carter, which dropped in March of last year. The tour is happening right now. And then Act 3 is probably going to come out sometime next year. I'm going to guess next summer. It's rumored to be a rock project. And the theme of this trilogy for Beyoncé is tapping into genres that are historically created by underappreciated black musicians and revitalizing the genre, explaining the history of the genre through Beyoncé's music, and shining a light on all of the black talent that helped create these genres and bring it to the place where it is today, while also kind of erasing the concept of what a genre means, especially on Cowboy Carter. Cowboy Carter has been positioned as a country album, but Beyoncé literally says this is not a country album, this is a Beyoncé album, and she is correct. She pays homage to country music legends like Dolly Parton by covering Jolene, but actually turning it into her own version of the song. Willie Nelson, Linda Martell are on the record. And at the same time, Beyoncé is using her platform to shine a light on up-and-coming country music talent like Shaboozey, who is on a few songs on Cowboy Carter, who has one of the longest-running hits of all time with the bar song Tipsy. You've got Tanner Adele, Brittany Spencer, Willie Jones as well. You then have collaborations with Miley Cyrus and Post Malone on Two Most Wanted and Levi's Jeans. This album won Album of the Year at the Grammys. It was Beyonce's somehow first album to win Album of the Year. And Beyonce brought the Cowboy Carter tour to New York City, bringing country to the city. And the show was nothing short of spectacular. There's so much that doesn't need to be said about Beyonce being the greatest live performer of our generation, one of the best vocalists of our generation. An unmatched beast when it comes to live performances, bringing fully realized concepts to life on stage in her art. Beyoncé has this incredible ability as a curator, both in music and visuals, to bring what's in her brain to life. You hear it all across her discography, but especially when it comes to these live performances, she's able to take songs from other albums, bring them into the Cowboy Carter world, have them flow seamlessly into both the country songs and the older work, and every single detail is planned out to a T. This is truly perfection on stage. Vocally unmatched. The way that this woman can use her voice to tell such incredibly intricate stories about the history of country music, using the interludes and the visuals throughout the entire performance to help tell the story of Cowboy Carter, of black musicians and their role in bringing country music to the forefront. Every single aspect of this show was perfected. The timing, the choreography, the dancers, the instrumentation, the stage, the lighting, the visuals on screen. Even having Beyoncé fly around the stadium in a pink neon horseshoe, and then later drive around the stadium in a floating car during 16 carriages. I was completely enthralled by this show. Now, the weather was bad. There was uncharacteristically a nor'easter here, where it literally rained for probably 24 hours straight. The temperature has been in like the nice mid-70s every day, and then all of a sudden it drops to the 50s and below. MetLife is not covered, so it is raining all day. While we're getting to the stadium, while we're going through security, no umbrellas allowed. So you're just getting soaked unless you have a poncho. And by the end of the show, the temperature was in the 40s. It was cold. I fully was in like my big puffer North Face black jacket. So long was any outfit I had in mind, any cool concert like costume I wanted to wear. Magically, because this just would happen, the rain stopped as soon as Beyonce came on stage. I mean, it was just like a magical thing. The show itself runs for about 2.5 hours. Beyoncé does over 40 songs, most of which come from Cowboy Carter. The opening segment of the show was so cool because she started off with American Requiem. She went right into her cover of Blackbird following that, which follows the album's order. She then performed her own rendition of the Star Spangled Banner before transitioning into Freedom, which, like, the deep political meanings of that song, the way that it was used in the Kamala Harris presidential campaign. The stadium loved that one. And then the best performance of the night, in my opinion, was Yaya. And that is the best song on Cowboy Carter, and the way that she's able to bring this performance to life, the way that she's mashing up other songs from her past in this performance, it was just completely mesmerizing. Her 13-year-old daughter, Blue, is quite literally the star of the show. She is participating in most of the performances. She is dancing her ass off. It's crazy how good she is for being 13 years old. Now, personally, I'm a bigger fan of Renaissance than I am of Cowboy Carter. I'm a more fan of dance music rather than country music. So for me, the moments of the show that I enjoyed the most were the Renaissance performances, especially the fact that she literally recreated almost exactly the opening segment of the Renaissance part of that show by doing I'm That Girl right into Cozy, right into Alien Superstar. That 3-song track was, I lost it. Another highlight was Bodyguard. Beyoncé knows how much we love Bodyguard, one of the best songs she's probably ever made. The fact that this song was not a big single and is not widely known is tragic because it's the perfect summer Beyoncé song. The woman is singing a full-on Italian opera over 2 hours into this stadium show in 40-degree weather with a dress that is changing colors live in the moment. It's just truly insane. There isn't really another artist you can compare her to because it is Beyoncé. The only thing that I noticed that didn't necessarily wow me was the dancing. Now, Beyoncé's in her 40s. She revealed during the Renaissance tour movie that she actually hurt her knee and had surgery. So understandably, she's not able to dance the same way that she was pre-surgery. Now, I admit this is probably not fair by any means, but I compare pretty much every live performance I see to Beyoncé's Coachella performance from 2018, because that is single-handedly the best live performance I have ever witnessed. Not witnessed, I wasn't there to see it. Watched on Netflix every month. That was 7 years ago, so obviously things are a little bit different. But even watching Beyoncé's Christmas Day performance, the energy level for that choreography was a little bit more than what I've seen on the Cowboy Carter tour so far. Granted, again, that was one performance versus a consistent tour. But that is the only thing I could possibly try to critique, but it's not even fully necessary because Beyoncé dancing at this level is miles better than 99.9% of other pop stars. I truly think the only other artist I can think of that is not at Beyoncé's level, but is very close / has the potential to get as close to it as possible is Lady Gaga. In terms of delivering live vocals, in terms of delivering choreography, in terms of bringing a vision to life on stage in that true artistry way, she's the only one I can think of who's at that level of fame, that level of output, that level of quality. But to make it very clear, nobody touches Beyoncé. What I would have loved to see is her bringing those other songs, not from Cowboy Carter, into the mix, but redoing the production a little bit to make them feel like they're more part of the Cowboy Carter vision and sound. There's one part of the show where she does Texas Hold'em, it's amazing, but then she kind of does a medley of older songs, including Crazy in Love, If I Were a Boy, Irreplaceable. It would have been cool to see her maybe tweak the production a little bit to bring it into the country world a bit, but this is me just trying to think of ways that she could continue to innovate on this tour, not at all a critique of the show itself. I truly believe that everybody should see Beyoncé live at least one time if they possibly can. This was my 4th. I will 100% see her as many times as I possibly can because she is the greatest live performer of our time. And if you have seen the Cowboy Carter tour, sound off. Let me know what your thoughts are on the show. If you've seen other shows, how you think this one compares. And with that, that is our show for the week. I know this is a shorter episode than normal, but I wanted to make sure you guys had something. I'm still not feeling 100%, but if you made it through this entire episode listening to this voice, I appreciate you immensely. I know you guys sounded off on my Instagram broadcast channel wanting to do a deep dive into 2020's albums that made the biggest impact. I will be doing that episode, I promise. But again, if you're not already following and subscribed to Live from Mars on your favorite podcast provider, that would mean the absolute world to me. If you're feeling extra generous, throw a 5-star review as well. I have a very exciting few episodes planned, so make sure you're sticking around for that. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you all next week for another new episode. Have a good one.